Hi, I am Mורדי from Israel. I am autistic. I am a doctor, researcher in autism, and I am also an activist for autistic rights. Thank you for having me. It's an honor. I'm a bit surprised about the topics. And once again, profound autism is underrepresented. And in counterparties, gender dysphoria does be represented, even though there is no clear link found between it and ASD, autism. I guess political agenda and overrepresentation of high-functioning autistics led to these choices. On one side trying to mask, and on the other side being a proud autistic trying to get the whole society changed for you are obstacles. The autistic is like a tourist, arriving in a foreign country not knowing the language and the culture. On one hand, he can't fake being like the local people. On the other hand, he can't demand that the whole country adapt to him. Both sides, the tourist and the country, have to make an effort. Tolerance from the local guys to the autistic, and respect from the autistic for the place he's visiting or living in. This question has an underlying bias, assuming that societal norms, cultures, and traditions are inherently wrong. The social norms in Western cultures are excellent for autistics, because an honest attempt is made to accept them, to introduce them to the workforce, to provide them social and health services that help them to conduct themselves independently. And all this in contrast to the norms of other countries where the stigma is great, where there are no services and autistics encounter many more difficulties. For example, I have Muslim family in Algeria. There are no services and no awareness about autism. And I even don't speak about the LGBT community that has no right to exist there. In Western cultures, as Israel, social norms and traditional definition of gender are not problematic. And the focus should be on creating practical opportunities rather than philosophical discussion of social changes. With no social norms, there are no societies and no cultures. Autistics, transgender people, Chinese in Africa, African in Russia are minorities. Minorities can't and should not impose their way of life on local norms and majority. If, for example, you are an Afghan migrant who was left a country with no rights and arrives in a new country in which you impose to women to live with hijab and shadow, you miss the point. And maybe you should have stayed in your origin country. In Western countries, minorities have rights, and they have rights because they are minorities and different from the norm. If you are an autistic and impose your way of life on the norm, pretending that you are by yourself the norm, you can't pretend anymore to get health services and social services, because you are the norm. And those services are given to people in the narrows. Social norms must be tolerant of autistics and transgender people. On the other hand, autistics and transgender people should respect the social norms and the majority, and not impose their views. If autistics' rights and transgender people rights fights are so important for some activists, I suggest them to fight in countries as Algeria, Afghanistan, Yemen, Ghana, Nigeria, Iran. This is courage, and there is absolute misery for these people. Thank you very much for listening to me.